welcome back to the RacialInvestor.com Broiler Chicken Show. Trade your trading plans, don't take too much risk on any one trade, and just let yourself get rich. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the RacialInvestor.com's Broiler Chicken Show. Me, Chris, and Glass Insights in the Hangout. Jeez, things are getting awfully quiet around here. And let's see, who do we have here on the YouTube page? We have DMAC like a boss. Man, you're here all the time. Great to see you as always, sir. Pikachu. God, I remember that. Had a little Joanne, she used to have a little keychain thing. I used to do that. Pikachu. Wow, that's a memory. God, until a little flashback. I'm gonna start going into seizures. Anyway, hello. BTC is overbought, they said. Well, it was overbought, no doubt about it. I think we probably spent the past month or two cleaning this thing up. I was just checking the chart last halving on May 11th, 2020. Woo, May 11th. There wasn't even any drop after it went sideways, then parabolic. Woo! What you really have to watch out for is don't be caught buying into the birthday. Let the market consolidate. Let the birthday get out of the way. Hey, if bullish setups come in after that, great. But I would be careful here, folks. But we'll get to that in a bit, I suppose. Who else? Adam's here. Hey, Adam. Hopefully you're keeping Jimmy and Liz on the straight and narrow. In fact, actually, I was talking to Ed the other day, and the dude abides. I think that's what his name is. All you guys who love that the Big Blutowski, I think it is. I can't remember that movie. Something like that. Anyway, all you Sacramento people, and I don't even know, Adam, if you know. Oh yeah, and you were in Boston, were you? I hope you had fun at the baseball game. Anyway, Adam, probably now's the time when because Jimmy and Liz have gone through the level 1 program, so they should understand the basics of everything. Man, I don't think we're seeing the bottoms come in just yet, but gee whiz, there's a hell of a lot of altcoins that are sure trying to paint W's here. So it's gonna be really interesting to see, because I've said it before, and I'll say it again and again and again. We're in the midst of a bull market here, so pullbacks should be considered buying opportunities, not freak out. The problem here is, and actually I put a tweet out. It was so eloquent. I swear, I was so proud of myself for this tweet because it was just so perfectly said. I swear, Adam, when I'm long dead and gone, and I don't know whether Chris will remember me or not, but Adam, your job, half of your job is going to be just to pull out all these old tweets of mine and stuff and remind people of these expressions that I've coined over the years. Because I tell you, I did one this past week, and I was so proud of it. It was just so perfect. Let's see if I can find it for you, because I tell you, it nails the market so perfectly. Let's see if I can find it. I think it was on the ship. The market really never goes anywhere, and the market never really goes anywhere. This is so important to understand. Like, God, you go on like social media sometimes, and you'd swear that the freaking end of the world is coming listening to some of these people. And I used to have this one client when I was a stockbroker. He used to say this all the time, and it was so perfectly what he would say, it's the end of the world for somebody around the world every single day. And he was totally spot on with that comment. Absolutely perfect comment. I mean, for somebody, like, it's always, it's the end, right? There's always people dying. It's absolutely perfect sentiment. So, but what's fascinating is, how do you get the market to actually go on sale to where prices are cheap? Well, you got to start injecting a bit of fear into the equation. And then, unfortunately, the public is always most euphoric at the top of the market. This time it's different. Gucci sweaters, all that nonsense. And then, ironically enough, when the correction actually happens, then everybody starts talking about, oh, it's the end of the world. We're all going to zero. It's never coming back. Blah blah blah. And ironically enough, just as cautionary, the this time it's different talk. The oh my God, utter despair. Roger Ver being arrested on tax evasion. CZ's being sent to prison. The Fed's going to raise interest rates and the economy's going to go to zero. We're all dead. And then instantly, boom, in comes a big fat rally. So, man, the point is the market never goes anywhere. Well, the market it's back and forth, just always it's just there. The question is, are you going to pay up and chase and probably pay expensive prices? Or are you going to be in there bargain hunting? Actually, this is another analogy, right? This is the only business when stuff goes on sale, nobody wants to buy. It's quite remarkable how it works that way. Anyway, so trying to understand this, today's bull market, ironically enough, and especially when we were going through this time it's different kind of idiocy prior to the halvening, that ironically enough actually sets up tomorrow's bear market. And you, as a market participant, you have to be cognizant of the fact that the market itself is always speaking to you. And one of the classic tells, one of the absolutely perfect analogies for you all to write in your journals, and just remember this. As soon as you hear people start saying this time it's different, we're never going to go down again, that's pretty much, well, you just actually sealed the deal just by you saying that statement. So ironically enough, today's bull sets the stage for tomorrow's bear. You have to understand this, folks. You really do. And then conversely, it works the exact opposite. Today's bear actually sets the stage for tomorrow's bull, i.e., when everybody is pessimistic and everybody thinks everything's just going to go down, then really what that means is that anybody who was going to sell has sold. Anybody who potentially may buy is going to sit there and go, maybe I better not. Maybe I'll just leave my wallet on my hip pocket. I won't spend any money today. And you actually create a vacuum. And then all of a sudden you get like any kind of sort of positive news. In this particular case, I think, me personally, this was the most absolutely textbook example of sell the rumor into the FOMC event. The FOMC event was like literally right here, and then buy the news coming out the other side. Was this sell-off maybe a little bit exaggerated, maybe a little bit overdone? I think so. Also, too, it was surrounded by a whole bunch of FUD around CZ. I mean, you got to admit, CZ, like Mr. Crypto, billionaire, extraordinaire, probably flying first class and, part of the Mile High Club. I don't know. Do they even still have the Mile High Club anymore? Anyway, now he's actually going to be wearing like a prison outfit. I'd love to get a picture of that. I think he's a pretty savvy guy, so I don't think he's only got 4 months, and they might even say I don't know whether he's actually spent any time behind bars waiting for his trial to finish, but they might even say due to time served under house arrest or something like that, we'll commute it down to nothing. And then I suppose there's probably also going to be like a golf course kind of golf club kind of minimum security prison that he's going to be sent to, like Martha Stewart or something like that. But wow, what a headline. CZ actually going to prison. He's going to be a convicted felon for the rest of his life in the US, whatever the hell that means. I suppose he's probably happier to face the piper, here in the United States than being sent to like some Chinese jail or something like that. Where, has anybody heard it from Jack Ma? And it's actually ironic that one of the names that I'm most interested in now is Jack Ma. And I tell you, man, I fought this idea of tooth and nail. It hurts my soul to have to turn bullish a Baba, but unfortunately, as a technician, I don't have any choice. I don't know whether I'll actually take the trade because of moral grounds. You all know how much I'm absolutely in love with Winnie the Pooh and the CCP and all that. But I tell you, man, if you're here to make money from trading, god damn that chart, Baba, which I suppose maybe we'll talk about in a minute. But anyway, the point of the matter here is this was the FOMC event. I thought I had a better chart of this. Is it this one maybe? No, darn it. Anyway, I got tons of these charts around. There's sort of like the daily zoomed out image. So we were absolutely puking out here. It is fascinating how if we draw a simple trend line off of these two peaks, and since we've gone through this low here, this is actually a valid working trend line now. This is a concept that we teach in our education program, how to draw trend channels. And interestingly, the way that you do it is you project it off of the most recent, I don't know, market structure base, previous pivot low prior to the actual peak. And so it paints this price channel. And fascinating. Look where the market stopped. Like when you draw this price channel, you don't even know what's going on. This over here is irrelevant to the study, right? I'll keep in mind we teach this in our education program. So I wouldn't suggest you just try and teach yourself off of these broiler chicken shows. Take the education program and you'll be formally instructed. But this is how you do it, right? There's the trend line itself, and it's confirmed by a move through this low. You actually have to project it off of the most recent swing pivot prior to the structure. And look how the market pivoted right off of that damn trend channel bottom there. That's insane. And it was right on that FOMC event. It was like literally the moment Jerry stepped up to the podium, the whole risk market just tanked and then just turned on a dime straight back up. Probably his expression from this latest meeting that probably got everybody's attention, including the stock market. Let's keep in mind, I don't think that these assets are unrelated anymore. I think they basically move in lockstep. So this was the FOMC event here. And like I said, everything was selling off. And then literally the moment he took the podium, boom, everything just turned on a dime and went straight up. What's fascinating about the stock market here is if we do things like good old Foggenbaums, it's actually this W pattern here. And actually, I guess there's a couple of them we could do. We could also do one here to here. These Foggenbaums are basically saying that the stock market's going right back up to the old highs. So get ready, folks. Are we through the seasonal correction window yet, though? I don't know. I don't think so. We did leave a pretty darn big gap here. This is a daily chart on the ES futures. There's also a gap from the FOMC day. So there's plenty of stuff, unfinished business down here. And our rule at TRI, at least it's my rule. I don't know if anybody else on the site follows it. But my rule is I can't really get bullish here until I actually get market structure that forms on the other side of this trend line here. And I would say it's the same thing with Bitcoin. So the chart that I put out on Twitter and stuff was, I do think that, there's our primary trend line, this teal line up here. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Chris even found it in the the news headlines here, putting the newsletter here together. Um, oh, and now it's gone. Well, that's not funny. Didn't we have it in here earlier? The comment from Rich, who was it? Uh,
Arthur Hayes. Yeah,
Arthur
I had it
Hayes.
in there originally, but then I realized that we talked about Arthur Hayes last week in the newsletter. So it is a
Oh,
completely
okay.
different article than the one that we had from last week. But yeah, last
Yeah,
week's.
well, I actually liked what he said, what you were saying, and Chris, absolutely invaluable resource. I really couldn't do this without Chris. He's so fucking good at this. So thank you for helping Chris immensely. I even told him before we got the video going, I was like, okay, I'm probably gonna have to ask you what the hell I'm supposed to be talking about today, because he's got like, we could talk about this, we could talk about this, we could talk about this, we could, and I'm like, I don't know what the hell to talk about today. So anyway, Chris did have an article here about Mr. Hayes coming out and saying, and I remember last week he had come out and said something along the lines that the U.S. Treasury and their funding requirements and sort of the shenanigans around the Great Reset and how we're all getting effed over here. It's continuing. The money printing is continuing. It's all, it's nothing's changed. So business as usual. The sort of deflating of the bubble has been put on pause. And more inflation of the bubble, more money printing, more shenanigans. Probably at the very least, we probably should expect that the selling pressure in risk assets has abated for the time being. Then, of course, Jerry comes out and says, I don't see either stag or inflation. Jerry, you've been looking at the economic data points of late. I'm not quite sure where he gets that. I think that the annual growth rate now in the States is lower than the inflation rate. So I'm not quite sure how he feels so confident. But anyway, he seems to think that the growth rate is acceptable. Uh, yeah, man, when I looked at things like the Chicago Fed numbers, Dallas Fed numbers, they're like fall off a cliff kind of numbers. I don't Anyway, half of the reason why I think that the risk market is rallying back up here, stocks catching a bit of a bid, is and of course Bitcoin, rallying smartly off its lows, is because the rate cut kind of hope is back on the table. But the problem is that that doesn't really in itself set up a trade. uh you know Please acknowledge, as long as we still have the market smiling at us like right in our faces here, this is a dangerous market state, and there's 50% of the entire range. I would have expected right into the end of this correction window, if we were going to just do nothing more than just follow like 2016 happening events, which I think this cycle is a lot like. I would expect a final sort of capitulation dump right into the end of the this window here. Maybe that's what we're going to do here. Like maybe this bounce off of these lows is this pivot right here. We rally back up, waffle, 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 and then have our final dump. I don't know. I don't think it's a good idea to predict what's going to happen here. All our job is just to simply roll with the punches and follow the chalk marks. If this is indeed the end of this bear slide, and we are setting up for a new leg higher, the levels should come out pretty obvious for things like bot setups. So, we have this V bottom. If if this does play out like 1516, now I can just show you here. Pull up the weekly chart. And you guys have all seen this ad nauseum, so it's not really anything new here. I mean, just keep in mind, look at what we have coming in our faces. I mean, get ready. And I guess this makes sense with Arthur Hayes talking about how the U.S. Treasury has completely lost control, and we're in the fucking Weimar Germany phase. you know, fraud of a currency system. How bad does bad get? Chris was telling me, he asked me before we got going, hey, do you want to mention the fact that your beloved Canadian government is now actually going to charge you 25 fucking $1,000 if you want to try and escape the what is it? How does it go? The Communist Party of China. I can't believe the fucking thievery of this place. But anyway, get me started on some crazy ass tangent. But as you can see, this is the 15-16 cycle, and this is kind of what I think we're going through this particular cycle. And I even remember somebody had asked the other, like a week or two ago, had said, well, how's a guy taking level one going to be able to grab that bottom and buy that bottom? And I was like, are you kidding me? I probably can't even do that. That is a pretty damn slick trade to be able to pick that bottom in earnest, and that's where I'm long. That is not an easy trade whatsoever. But I would say that the market bouncing following this dump, and then the consolidation following it, this actually, believe it or not, is our trade, if you will. And this is kind of what I'm thinking needs to happen with the Bitcoin market here now. I don't think it's a good idea for anybody to try and get involved in trying to catch a falling knife here. This is very, very difficult. I think it's a good idea to work stink bids. You know, on things like Bitcoin, you just sprinkle your bids in, and if this thing absolutely pukes out, you get some absolute gifts with those stink bids. If it doesn't puke out, well, yeah, shit happens. You missed the trade. But to actually expect yourself to be able to pick this bottom, I think that's asking a bit much of even like the most gnarly market veteran. I suppose you could argue to a certain degree you could have gone, well, A to B. And then clone that, C to D. And look at me, I'm so smart. I had my stink bid at that level. Could we have applied this same logic to this particular correction here? It's tough. You know, I mean, was this the A to B? And then this lower high, C to D? Maybe. Suppose that might be along the lines of what we were just saying there with these trend channels. And were you able to throw in a stink bid at the bottom of this channel here? A to B, C to D, and then there was also A, B, C, D. Could be. I don't know. That's a tough one. But what I will say is I do like the idea of hunting shorts off of the top end of the range. And we still have our little happy little shorts working. The stop's at scratch. There's really nothing to do here. This is the cash market. So there is the trade right off the top of the range there. That was just an absolutely beautiful trade. And I might even argue that all of this is just fluff. It's just noise right now. So the stop on this thing's at scratch. Just leave it there. You can see where the reload short zone is. Also too interesting. This is a trend line off of these previous peaks. So this is like a high to high trend line. And notice how the market pivoted through that. I wouldn't be surprised if the market actually has to come and kiss that trend line from the underside. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a nice little big stab right up into these levels. But because this is a V bottom, by definition, that's not a floor yet. If anything, what I'm kind of seeing off of this higher time frame image is maybe, and this would be sort of along those 15-16 consolidation kind of event. Maybe we have to come up into kissing that trend line, mountain man level, horizontal support and resistance, blah, blah, blah. And then we do a bit of a consolidation here, and so any kind of bullish price action in here sets up a pretty good looking little buy window. That's definitely one scenario. We could very easily roll up here, put in an M, and boom, down we go. And continue this downward trend. That's totally realistic too. So I know because this is a V bottom, and because it was kind of a weird sort of the sentiment, it was remarkable how quickly the sentiment completely turned bearish. I mean, just stunningly bearish. With CZ getting thrown in jail, like that's all. I can't believe it. Remember that to tell your kids. Billionaires are not immune from prison time too. By the time we get to sort of the next market cycle peak, everybody's going to completely have forgotten about this. But man, I find that incredible. But let's see if I can show you what I was looking at earlier. I guess maybe it was down here. So lower time frames. What does this bounce look like? Yeah. So here was that FOMC event. And if anything, I'm a big fan of billiard ball fractals that are like, what does chaos in the market look like? This to me looks like this was incredibly well orchestrated fractal here. Quite remarkable, really. It's like it's a head and shoulders, but it resolved upward, not downward. But I often see this pattern. Anyway, if you do fog and bombs off of this W, 2.618, 4.669s, fog and bombs off of this W, 2.18, 2.618, 4.669. And then we do fog and bombs off of this huge W. Fascinating how this big W, it's fog and bombs 2.618. So it's like literally this W is kind of like almost like half the size of these W's. So this gives us a 4.669 from this W, 2.618 from this W, 4.669 from this W. To me, this is like literally the market is telling you, I want to go here. Damn it. Don't get in my way. That's what that's telling me, that resolution through that pivot there. And that was all confirmed, I suppose. These W's, this W, ironically enough, is actually confirmed right on the Fed event there. And then these W's on the other side were all confirmed on the sort of consolidation move up. And you can almost look at this like this is, think of this as like A to B. And there's probably going to be some sort of equal movement on the other side of this. Actually, I did see this stock trader guy on YouTube, these YouTube shorts and all that kind of stuff. He was kind of talking about this. There's three phases of the market. So the first phase of the market is the actual bottom. W's, this cute little buy signal. I suppose you could have probably gotten long here. If you're a risk taker or whatever, sell the rumor, buy the news. It was remarkable how cliche that was. So that's sort of phase one. Then phase two is this weird sort of mid phase where the market is repricing itself. And through this phase, the trend will look very orderly and very sort of, no real massive divergences. All the indicators are all ramping up, volumes all bullish, rah, rah, rah. And then phase three is where we go into divergence. And look at what's happening now. So notice, we had this high here in MACD way over here. That huge, strong push up, right? Huge momentum there. Then this move, well, it's a pretty big move up, right? But it's not nearly as big as this move. And you can see on MACD, oh, geez, that's not nearly as much of a reaction. And you could even argue RSI starting to go in divergence here. Willie stupidly overbought. And now we're in sort of phase three. And phase three, sadly, is the phase where the public comes in and they usually buy. And they get all excited about the bull and all that kind of fun stuff. But you can see, especially off of MACD, what the hell happened to the bull? We're making a high, then a lower high, and now a lower high. If I'm not mistaken, that's a downtrend. What's scary about this is when MACD usually looks like this is what I call a coil. Usually it resolves in some horrendous price action on the other side. And you never know exactly which way it's going to go. It might go soft to the downside, then explode higher, and then come ripping down the other side. It could also go the exact opposite, pop higher and then crap out the other side, and then violently move up. So regardless, if you do see, and there's one reason why I like to follow MACD histogram, is you can see the coiling of momentum here. So I don't know whether this is the end of the move. If we look at things like Willie was stupidly overbought. We had to basically spend the weekend cleaning that up. Keep in mind, we're now down to the 30-minute chart here. Put in a cute little bottom, not really oversold though, but yeah, higher highs and higher lows defines a bull. And we rally back up top again, sort of never did get overbought. So you can kind of almost see the coil action kind of happening here as well. So we are building to some sort of crescendo. I don't know what it's going to be. But what I would say is that the momentum is coiling. That's the best way to describe this. And considering the huge jump that we just had, I might be a little bit leery. I mean, there won't be any trade setup for me to do here. I could completely understand coming out of that Fed meeting. There was, you could almost feel the despair in this space. I was actually quite surprised. Yeah. You know what's weird though is that I don't know whether that's actually what we really want to see here. Somebody just said, well, a reload zone pullback would be nice. Like again, if we think about what that 15-16 cycle, notice this big hammer low here. So, that's looking awfully similar to that 15-16 hammer bottom. Whatever the hell that was, how many millions of years ago that was, right over here. So I don't know. Is that looking similar to that? Maybe yes, maybe no. It is interesting how and remember I had said earlier, I don't think anybody like could really like plan to take this trade. Very, very difficult. I'd also say too that I think what's happening here with Bitcoin now, especially with this trend channel that we pointed out earlier here, this is actually what a more mature market should look like. And I actually think that the way that the 1%'s working this now is they're using the ETF market to support the buy side, and they're using the futures market to promote the sell side. They don't have to report what they're doing in the futures market, so they can pump the market up, be selling into those retail buy orders there from the ETFs. They're building shorts in the futures markets, right? In the futures market, that's this guy here. Again, through that FOMC event, this is actually the chart I was looking for earlier. Through that FOMC event, I mean, it was just an absolute perfect sell the rumor. And then also too, if you actually think about this concept of institutional fingerprints, this top looked really suspicious. And I thought you said that that Beamish guy says that tops look like M's, whereas this was straight up, straight down. We all know that V bottoms and V tops need to be tested. So you might even argue that, this is the level at which the institutional guys said, all right, no up, you go down, right? And they just crush the bulls' hearts in the futures markets. So as I had said earlier, this seemed awfully suspicious, like straight down into that FOMC event. And then, here's our fog and bombs coming out the other side. And we can also do another one here to here. I mean, look at this. This is spooky how that 4669 lines up so nicely with that level. And then here, same thing. Look at that 4669. So you got like basically the reload short zone. You've got your trend channel off of the top. This is the actual trend right there. Boom, boom. There's our happy little shorts just sitting up there doing nothing. And this is just all sort of playing around. And notice that, 2.618, 4.669 banging up against the institutional fingerprint. That's going to do nothing more than just bring us back to this trend line. And then notice also too, these A, B, C, Ds. And then this one, A, B. This is like don't think A, B, C, D, think inverted head and shoulders. So a head and shoulders, if you're not familiar with the head and shoulders, it's price action, basically distance from the head back to the neckline. When you break out through the neckline, that is your profit objective. So you can see there is the head and shoulders objective. Notice, I even said like, wow, that's some serious confluence of levels. And this thing is because the spot market is a bit higher here, right? That's 63 and change. And, we've worked our way up here a bit over the weekend. My hunch is that this thing actually gaps higher into these levels tonight, after I get back from Liam. What do you think the odds are, though, as we're working our way up into these levels, that bearish divergence is going to start to form, kind of like what I showed you in the cash market here? All this divergence. So I do think that a good portion of this bull is exhausted itself, and we're doing nothing more. And really, this is the best chart to show you. We're doing nothing more than just dead cat bouncing right back into significant resistance, right? We often talk about, if I change this to like a 4-hour chart, I think you see this really well. But I had to do it on this one. Where are these poor souls sleeping? And actually, they're not anymore. So when I do the show with Coinigy guys, I always ask Joe this, and it really, all new people to trading, you have to learn this. Where were these people sleeping? Right there, that big old wick. Remember, we looked at this wick off a 30-minute chart, and it was a wicked railroad tracks there on the futures, right? Actually, no, that's a 1-hour chart. Notice how it's a railroad track straight up, and somebody said, nope, you go down, boom. So what's interesting is on the cash market, that actually set up this huge wick where a whole bunch of people were bullish and they got trapped. So do you see how this rally into this level is doing nothing more than just releasing all of these trapped bulls? Tell you, this is a really good lesson. And it's a good lesson in this concept of horizontal support and resistance. And then also notice too, there are a bunch of trap bulls right here as well, eh? Right there. They would love to get released. And by release, what I mean is they are going to release their supply into the marketplace. Right? And there's also these trap bulls here, which means that when they release all this supply into the marketplace, that's going to be like selling pressure, right? They bought in here. They saw the market absolutely fall apart and they went, oh my God, I'm dead. Well, I can't sell here because then that means I crystallize the loss. And this is the money that we got to spend on the summer vacation down at Disneyland. Ed, are you watching? Ed can tell you how much a vacation at Disneyland is going to cost you these days. It's a pretty freaking penny. I'll tell you that much by crackers. So Dad's sleeping on the couch, just praying to God, please bring price back and I'll sell it. I'll never buy this goddamn thing again. And you can see that's exactly what this back and forth is. All this pent up demand, and everybody's like, oh, this is a bull, get in there, buy. These guys are like, oh, thank God, just get me the fuck out of here. And that's what explains all this back and forth, right? You got that. And if anything, this is a beautiful, oh God, you can't write this stuff any better. Some clown should teach a course on this stuff, I tell you. why do they call this chaos theory? Has anybody ever heard of this Foggenbaum? Well, it's called chaos theory. And really, the whole point is that what we as traders want to do, we want to identify a trend. And then what we want to identify is what happens at the end of the trend when price doesn't trend anymore, but actually starts getting a little chaotic. Chaos. And really, this illustration is a perfect, explanation of how, on the way up here, climbing the wall of worry. And if you think, look left, right? I've told all you guys this before. There's no resistance. There's nothing stopping this thing up here. But as soon as we get up into the point where there's a whole bunch of trap bulls and they would love dearly to get the hell out of there. Oh, what a coincidence. Our math says that price should start to get chaotic. And that's exactly the graphic illustration of what chaos is. I tell you, man, somebody should write a course on this stuff. Anyway, so moving on. Probably not the best place for a trade here. But I did see earlier on, because it was just so cute, and us crazy ass day traders were always hunting, seeing these damn setups. In fact, I think it even went down to like a 10-minute chart. Yeah, there it is. So this is a really good example of that kind of idea where you want to be hunting for retracements into specific levels. And you notice that we have written on here, I don't know whether you can see that or not, but it says candle body lows for trade location. So sharpshooters, and what's this in reference to? Remember we said bunch of trap bulls up in here. And if we actually look at it from that hourly basis, and like 4-hour basis, actually, there's the hour chart. Where's that 4-hour chart? Here we are, right? I don't know whether you ever heard me use this expression with you guys before. Candle body highs and lows for trade location. And it made perfect sense that, like we said, if we get up into here, there's trap bulls that want to get the hell out of there. So maybe start hunting for some sort of pivot off of that level. If this is candle body lows for trade location, and in this case, candle body high. So if we drill back down to that 10-minute chart, what was super cool about this, and it looks like it might even be happening again, but you can literally see how the market pivoted right off of that candle body highs and lows for trade location. And it set up the cutest little mountain man counter trend rally dump inside bar reversal just above that level. And I thought it was interesting if you were risking against that high, that produced a nice 2-to-1 risk reward. We dumped into the initial take profit level. And this is a really good example. A guy that I used to trade with a million years ago, Brandon, he used to just hit this mountain man level religiously, right? And that's what his pit name was, mountain man. And he would sell part of the position at like a 2-to-1, then put his stop to scratch. And if indeed this was some sort of massive pivot event here, candle body highs for trade location, and the market just melted down, then he'd make a fortune on his little runner position. In this case, the market came back, stopped out the rest of the position at scratch. And interestingly enough, on that event, you can see how the market's kind of just waffling here. It doesn't really know what it wants to do. Interesting how we just put in a new M top here just after trying to break out. So W bottom, M top. Ironically enough, what do you think the odds are that, well, I can see visually it's not, but it would have been interesting had this candle body highs and lows for trade location actually been at the 50% level, but let's see where it is. 50%. Boom. Oh, pretty damn close, eh? So you can kind of see that the market is just oscillating around this really important level here. And I suppose, your slick traders, could we have seen like that looks like a little double top right up in there. And then would this be like sort of, that mountain man kind of trade concept again? Sure looks like it. So it really wouldn't surprise me if like really sharpshooter. Where's Mountain? There you are. Yeah, I mean, look at that. It's ridiculous, eh? So, not a big surprise. We were at 64,471, and you took went to 64,487. You took a grand total of $16 of heat on that trade, and then it just worked in your favor. That's ridiculous when you see that, eh? God damn, stupid Brandon. Anyway, so this is probably another example where come in there, risk against the highs. I've been trying to do this setup on crude oil this past week or two and just get my ass handed to me, though. I do believe the trend in crude oil has changed, though. So, got to learn how to interpret market state. Anyway, so 2-to-1, sell half, put your stop at scratch on the remaining, and who knows where the hell this thing's going to go here from now. It's interesting how we just dump back down into some gaps here, though. So also look at that, there's some gaps down there as well. Oh, and down there. So there's lots of unfinished business for this market. But there's that candle body high-low for trade location level. And I think that's what the market's playing off of right now. So if we go back to that higher time frame kind of thinking, Fockenbaum's out the butt. Price is getting very chaotic in here. Not a big surprise. It is a reload zone. It is against some massive railroad tracks that I think the institutional players will try and defend this level here. And actually, interestingly enough, if we do actually break this horizontal support and resistance and close above it, above here, then that will actually shift the market state. You've probably heard me make reference. I think, it's a very legit concept. So I don't really mind giving the gentleman a shout out. Good ideas are good ideas. So we call this the ICT, market structure shift level. Of course, that should be horizontal. So I don't know whether it is or isn't. So if we do actually see the market close out above this level, then we can actually start thinking about, okay, well, market structure shift. And ironically enough, that 61.8 actually becomes a really, really important trade location, kind of like what you see with these 61.8 little short stabs up top here. Not really the same concept, but similar. I suppose, that ICT guy, he also talks about his fair value gaps. And I think you could probably illustrate something like that. If this is the top up here, you can see this is traffic. And then we can probably do another one off of the FOMC event lows, right? So this is traffic down in here. And there's Mountain Man. In fact, probably should even do it off of that high there. Something like that. And that's your fair value gap kind of concept. But don't quote me on this. I'm no expert at this. It's just been on my observations. But I have noticed, which has been very helpful for me, because I have such a great respect for 61.8 fibs, that quite often these kind of pullbacks following the market structure break, they actually work really, really well off of that 61.8 pivot level. So interesting that somebody over there on YouTube was commenting oh geez, I don't even know how did an hour go by? I don't even know what the fuck I talked about. I'm sorry, everyone. Okay, so this market structure level, for as far as I'm concerned now, has not been broken yet. Maybe into this evening they do break that. And then we can start thinking about this setup. I don't know whether I think that I'm, honestly, actually right now, I don't have any opinions. I'm not quite sure what the hell is going to happen here. What I would expect though, is if we are doing sort of that similar consolidation following, this was the 15-16 cycle. I would expect us at the very least just to go sideways. We're almost through that whole pump up the thing a month ahead of the halvening event. Halvening event comes, We got a bit of a dump on the other side of the halving event. Was that the extent of the dump? I don't know. Only time will tell. It is interesting how we've broken this downtrend line. So if we get bullish structure on the other side of this trend line, then that sets up that 15-16 scenario that I was talking about over here, where, as soon as we get any kind of bullish structure on the other side of downtrend lines, well, you have to turn yourself back bullish. And you notice these were the bull A, B, C, D levels, and there were bought objectives, bing, 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 bing. So if we fast forward to today and we do the same logic, notice interesting. Remember, we said there should be a hell of a fight, right? If we look at these lower time frame charts, this level, we talked lots about this. Hopefully you're on board with me on that. And we talked lots about the indicators, kind of going into divergence here, looking a little suspect. So I think that we are going through a bit of a consolidation here, which makes sense. If this can consolidate, and notice also too, I thought this was interesting. We're right on the midpoint of this massive channel. So if we can just consolidate here a little bit, paint a W, oh, look at what level we have staring us right there. That is ye old bot setup levels. So, the message that I put in like the newsletter was, we're working our way through the typical seasonal correction following a big event, FA event. This is so cliche, it's ridiculous, folks. From this time, it's different. Those are the idiots buying the top of the market, to Roger Ver being arrested for tax evasion, CZ being thrown in jail, actually getting sentenced to jail time. He is now a convicted felon in the United States of America. To the FOMC, oh my God, they're going to shit on everybody and raise interest rates. Well, actually, they come out and say maybe we're not that aggressive and don't really expect any higher interest rates. Sure seems to me like we just went from major pivot. This time it's different. Gucci sweaters, all that nonsense, to Ver, CZ, and FOMC all shitting on us. Man, this sentiment in this space is just swung back and forth. And this is the kind of talk that actually bottoms are made of. Remember, I started off the conversation today with the bull market of today sets up the bear market for tomorrow. Well, the bear market of today sets up tomorrow's bull market. So I'm not predicting what's going to happen, but as a good technician, I got to keep my options open. And notice if this bullish pop, we have one low, and Brian, he needs 3. But as I said, if we can consolidate in here a little bit and paint 2 lows, 3 lows, and actually start breaking out, well, you can see where the next bot profit objective is. It's way up top there. So just be flexible. And then, unfortunately, that's your job as a trader. Don't go into the business of predicting the future. Try and understand the sort of the writing on the walls, things like the public being stupid. Understand the events of halvenings and what they do psychologically to the space and all that kind of stuff. And this actually is pretty normal. The point here is, and this was the most important thing, what I wanted to highlight about this tweet, and please try and remember this, folks. The key to winning at this game is don't get caught chasing yesterday's story. Gucci sweater wearers were chasing this story. This time it's different, people. We're chasing this story. It turns out that in this part of the market, you should have been thinking, if not correction, dump in price, at least can I get a consolidation so that this euphoria gets played out? Because keep in mind, the market works on a balancing act. And if we're up top here and everybody is long, who else is going to buy? There's no way price can go higher. Conversely, if we're down at the bottom and everybody is short and everybody's sold, how can price move any lower? Everybody's out. And then you get any kind of buying and it can start a tsunami. back up to the upside where everybody gets long again, blah, 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 blah. So the point here is try not to get sucked into yesterday's story. Right now, if you started saying, well, I'm hunting setups that I think are going to have me go long, maybe around 64 Gs. And my ultimate upside target will be to sell some at 91, then sell some more at 101, then look to sell the remaining of the bag at 113. People would be like, you're crazy, man. What are you, on drugs? That's what I've got to be doing now, is I have to be sitting here saying, I don't want to get too wrapped up in yesterday's story. What I want to think about is what is tomorrow's story. And so then we'll finish off this sort of banter. I don't know whether Bitcoin is the place where you're going to make fortunes. I mean, maybe if you're lucky, you could play the options market. And now, through all the ETFs and stuff, we could probably find some really cool options trades that'll probably do some dramatic performance. Speaking of which, on Friday in our after party, I saw this chart. Our CTO Sjord was bullish of this story from a fundamental perspective recently. And I was like, you want me buying China? What are you, crazy? And then this pattern developed, and you can see that this thing just fired this past week. So this is like hot off the presses, folks. But this chart right here, this is a classic technical pattern that we follow at TRI religiously. Our TRI secret options formula quarterback, David, he lives and breathes by this kind of chart pattern. This is a weekly price chart. This literally took like 6 months to develop, right? There's January right there. Here we are in May. So this is like a half a year this consolidation in prices happened here. And the fact that this whole consolidation has happened just above and filled in this price gap, satisfied all that, but this whole consolidation happened just above these lows. This implies that this thing is done going down. And if anything, as I said, the market never goes anywhere. It's not like the market disappears. Can assets get overpriced? Absolutely. And, you as a technician, kind of the same sort of thing. You look at a price chart that looks like this, and you're thinking about buying. Well, what you're really doing is you're buying yesterday's bull market. That's not a good idea. Hopefully you can look at this chart and say, well, I've learned there are a few little hints that maybe this is a consolidation. We weren't really in a bull or a bear, but now that we're starting to paint higher lows and higher highs, maybe this thing's transitioning from a bear. And really here, we're not even asking for a new bull market. All we're doing is we're just saying, can you please, Mr. Universe, just do what the universe naturally does? 50% retracements of the most recent significant move. This isn't rocket science. That's the irony of it all. It's just, can you listen to the market's message, and can you appreciate this thing's got a very high statistical probability? And look at these numbers. That's like $80 all the way up to 180. Holy bejesus. There is a lot of money to be made in this. They had a great conversation and walkthrough with one of our OGs, Steven, on Friday doing this trade. And then our options gurus, Zach, who loves his spread trades. And if we have enough interest, we'll definitely see if we can bring Zach back to do another one. We have a few people who are interested in his spreads course, but I don't really want to tout it until we have a good dozen people ready for him. But he teaches you, and he actually had a really cool illustration of how you can spread trade this for like pennies. And if the market does move up into these levels, you make an absolute fortune. So the question is, do you see how I'm not investing in yesterday's story? Anybody who's thinking about yesterday is saying, this thing's a dog, it's down, it's dead. What I'm trying to think about is, what does tomorrow's story look like? So I would actually do the exact same thing in crypto right now. Like this is a fundamental name, and we have a whole universe of stocks that we have fundamentally invested in with Sjord and put a lot of money, a fairly sizable portfolio into these names. Interesting how his favorite AI video rendering name is Wing out here. Interesting, Cosmo. I think I saw somebody over there. Bursito Card says Adam. Check out Adam. I think this is Adam here, isn't it? Cosmo. That thing's Wing out, and I don't know. You tell me. Is this a half decent trade location? This is the whole point of the education program, was we want to prevent you from coming in and chasing up here. But now that we've gotten into trade location, maybe we have indicator confirmation. Unfortunately, on these sort of line charts, I don't have the indicators on here. But I think you could probably make the argument just from a simple trend line perspective. You can see we're trying to break out here. I don't know whether we're quite ready yet, but you can see W's. You want to maybe wait for a W on the other side of this trend line? Not a bad idea. Is this a good trade location? 78.6 is Brian's favorite fib. Was that a good place to pick some up? Nanny nibbles kind of stuff. I mean, the writing's on the walls. I definitely think you want to stick to the tried and true, right? Three reasons for a trade: location, indicator confirmation, price structure, go. Just looking at this chart alone, I can see clearly trade location. I can see price structure. Might be a little bit early with this downtrend line just now being broken out. Maybe if you could find a little W over here, maybe like a Wyckoff check against that high, and then some sort of bullish resolution over here, that would be awesome. Names like this LTO, though, I don't think he's ready to go yet. This to me looks like it's still dead cat bouncing. And, if we just simply draw reload zones, you can tell that, yeah, geez, this thing's still awfully expensive. So I like the idea that we were supposed to, while we were waiting for Bitcoin to clean up following its big fundamental event, still not totally convinced that we finished the cleanup. I would actually make the argument that since we have recaptured this trend line, if we go and just puke out and lose this trend line, then this playground is off the table. But there was such a momentum push here. I still think that this is going to take a bit of time to sort of play itself out. Remember, that was this whole conversation about what does this top actually look like? What it will ultimately look like is some sort of M. That's usually how these things play out. With the futures markets closed right now, it'll be interesting to see if they gap this thing higher. And this will be the level I'll be watching like a hawk, how this level up here resolves. So I think there's still a little bit of upside on the dead cat bounce. But I wouldn't be surprised if over the next week, right? Yeah, and if I understand correctly, the econ's coming out relatively tepid this coming week. We don't really have big inflation numbers until like next week. So you're probably going to find that, kind of like what I said with the stock market, this thing, we are coming up into 30 SMA. So it's not going to be an easy peasy move. But I wouldn't be surprised if the path of least resistance just in the short term is higher rather than lower. There's Mountain Man sitting up there. I wouldn't be surprised if we have to push a little bit higher here. And interesting, off of these W's, there's Foggenbaum there and there's Foggenbaum there. Is this kind of like the move through the summer silly season that they push this market back up top? Could be. It wouldn't surprise me. At the same time, too, I don't think I really feel comfortable coming in. This is basically about 50% of the range. I would never want to buy just on a 50% of the range. If this does set up that bullish bot kind of scenario, A, B, C, D, then there'll be levels that will form. But like what I said with this image here, I would like to see a nice consolidation and a W on the other side of this trend line for me to get excited. So does that mean that maybe Bitcoin just has to go sideways for a little bit here and sort of clean itself up as the stock market sort of consolidates? That's what I'm thinking. But, like these little ones, like I showed you this hello, this is a name that is on our sexy FA list that we're fairly heavily invested in. Right there, hello. I don't necessarily consider this a buy here. but I definitely think that's trade location. Brian and his 78.6s. And I've told you guys repeatedly over the years that quite often what I'll see is the market will just gyrate. And then ultimately I'll see that the goddamn thing goes and W's out right off of my 78.6. And I remember distinctly a couple months ago when this thing was running up top, Fjord was like, this is crazy. Why are these prices so high? This is nuts. It's insane. And sure enough, boom, there's the market cleaning up that excess. All the people that came in and bought up top here, they're dead now. They're probably flushed out. And I might argue that, geez, we got to be getting ready for the next bull run here. Really good example of don't chase, be patient and disciplined. Now, you want to make this really easy. Probably got to wait for nice W's on other sides of trend lines. And away we go. We'll start off the next bull. And I always like to look for a market pivot right around the end of June, beginning of July. That's always my favorite time of year. So I wouldn't be surprised if over the next couple of weeks, there's some back and forth, probably really over the next 6 weeks, really. Setting up that base for the summer silly season. And you can just go name by name by name by name. Ironically enough, a lot of them look very similar. Rend is an interesting character. This obviously sweet spot of the market. It is interesting. I'm hearing a lot of people starting to talk about how Nvidia is setting itself up bullishly going forward. I don't know whether I would consider this a buy signal into itself, but if we get a nice W consolidation here, we are now on the other side of these downtrend lines. So you can see pretty substantial bullish divergence through here. And you got a bit of a div happening here. Looks like a bit of a bottom in OBV. The buyers are starting to come back. So my hunch is this is probably going to bot out and, paint higher highs and higher lows and all that kind of talk. Do we get the incredible sexy pullback that brings markets back down to value? It doesn't appear now. And remember, half our job as technicians is we're not in the job of predicting the future. We're just in the job of, if I buy here, I have to realistically expect that this thing could dump down to here. If I really do want to buy, I have to wait for nice consolidations, W's on other sides of trend lines, 3 higher lows, indicators pointing W's again, and then I can start thinking about hunting long setups. And really that's all it is a setup. So my hunch is, probably over this next week, like we said, maybe something along those lines, and then you can start botting this out. But I think my general message is, and this is what I sort of said in here, we're working our way through the typical seasonal correction window following a big fundamental event. Not really anything special. From this time, it's different euphoria. We've gotten rid of that now, thank heavens. To VER-CZ and FOMC FUD, that feels like it's evaporating to a certain degree now with this counter trend rally. Crypto is cleaning up. And now it appears it's time to get back to hunting long setups. That's what I'm thinking right now. It doesn't necessarily mean I'm pulling the trigger. There are some names. I mean, God, if you show me a crypto chart that looks like this, I'd probably buy it today. But it feels as though, and like I said earlier, there's a lot of people talking in the marketplace about Nvidia getting ready for another launch higher. So it'd be just interesting to see what this looks like. This is a project I'm working on. All right, let's see what we got here. Yeah, I'm not ready to get uber bull here. Right? I'm probably going to want to see a test of that high. But keep in mind these numbers, right? And could rent. I mean, hopefully you look at that RNDR and you look at this NVIDIA chart and you basically see the same thing. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that a couple other sort of AI related names, Ocean, one that I have in the little old lady portfolio, he's starting to perk up. So, this is the sort of the sexy part of the risk market right now. So if you're going to be looking for sectors of crypto to be turning back up and resuming their bull, These kind of names are probably the names that you want to be concentrating on. So, same logic. If we can get a W on the other side of here, that's probably painting some sort of crazy ass bull A, B, C, D. There was one other part of the crypto market Chris was mentioning a little bit ago that doing well in the space right now alongside with these AI names. What was that other sector that you were mentioned earlier, Chris? Well, I think I caught him napping.
Depends.
There he is.
Depends.
Depends.
Yeah, stuff like Okta, OCTA, decentralized infrastructure, physical infrastructure networks.
Wow, that's
Things.
cool.
Yeah.
Are any of these names that one of your depends? I have no idea. Anyway, these are the
Well,
names. If you could see anybody that does look.
probably EWT, I would say.
Oh, okay. Well, that would make sense because I've been noticing and I've been barking about this thing recently. I don't know whether this is such a good buy level here, but wow, look at that reload zone pullback. If you're a sharp boss trader, frick, god damn it, look at that pullback, eh? I'm long a whole bunch of this, and I actually bought some more up top here. Buying this W, that probably wasn't the smartest idea. But look at this. If you just zoom out on this is insane. Look how much money there's to be made on this thing. There's a 2011. That was the last crypto cycle peak. I mean, I don't know whether this one candle is an anomaly, but we're sitting here at a couple bucks. Could this thing rally to 10, $15? I think so. It's not unrealistic.
That's
So,
also a BlackRock favorite, if I'm not mistaken, according to Chico and other
oh
sources,
boy. Well, there you go, folks.
and the World Economic Forum.
Oh
Yeah.
no!
Yeah.
This is getting worse by the minute. And I said that I like this. Oh god. Cats and dogs are living together. Oh, this is not a good sign. Oh well. Anyway, so if you want to take a screenshot of this, these are the names that I have in the little old lady portfolio. And really, all I'm doing is I'm just waiting for the W's to come in to start getting in there and rebuying. Some of the names that I did sell halves on doubles, right? I'll rebuy those. Others that I actually never did get in, but I thought I did, like this WAN and the Rune and the Spell. It's time to actually start getting serious. Now, remember, folks, Brian's usually right. So when I say that we're in a bull market and pullbacks are buying opportunities and we're entering trade location, I think that's all perfectly valid. And frankly speaking, I don't mean to be, sound arrogant or anything, but I think I'm right. But remember the second part of how that goes. And this is the important part. Usually I'm early, right? Like this name that we were just looking at a moment ago, the hello, is a really good example of this. Where I look at a chart like this and I go, damn, I mean, this thing's cheap. It's right down at my 7.86, right? Brian's favorite fib. I don't know that you can see that down there. So, Brian starts getting interested, but look how long I actually painted this picture where this thing actually starts breaking out. That's actually halfway through the summer. And then, I don't know whether this is accurate or not, but I just freehanded this. So just remember, Brian's usually right. Pullbacks are buying opportunities, right? Don't be an idiot Gucci sweater wearer moron and chase up markets like this and not expect to get your head handed to you. So at the same time, too, though, Brian's usually early. So all through here, I was barking about how kind of foolhardy it was to be a buyer through here. And you were going to get beat up on the other side of this big fundamental event over here. And I might argue that, man, a week or so ago, all these people that bought up here, they were down like 20, 30% on their investments. Not very happy. And oh boy, blood was in the streets. If anything, it's kind of good that we dead cat bounced out of there. A lot of those people hopefully are feeling a little bit better about life now. If anything, one thing I haven't heard this cycle, which maybe has to happen, before we're actually done is we haven't heard anything about the suicide hotlines and stuff. But anyway, hopefully we don't have to deal with that kind of stuff this go around. So what I'm just going to simply say is, I think we're near location, right? But at the same time, too, we're still very early in this bottoming process. A lot of these names are trying to W, but they haven't actually W'd yet. So location, awesome. Indicator confirmation, I don't know. I'm not seeing a lot, like when I look, for example, at this hello, this is a good example. I would like to see these indicators punch up here. Yes, the market's oversold, but like look at RSI. Does that look like it's in bullish divergence? No, it's not. So we need to see a punch higher here, right? All of these names punch higher, confirm these W's, right? And then we can start thinking, okay, we've got location. We're going to get indicator confirmation. The momentum will start coming back. And then all we do is we hunt our W's to try and sneak our way in. So we're close, but at the same time too, remember, Brian's usually early. And also too, like this Baba name, this is a weekly chart. Watch what happens when we drill down to a daily price chart. Oh my goodness, this thing's riddled with gaps. Could we not spend maybe a month or so just cleaning up all of these gaps from this little bit over the top bullish euphoria? I mean, look how this thing gaps higher and lower. So here's a really good example. I don't want you chasing and buying up here. Our conversation that we had on the site on Friday was we're just going to be patient and disciplined, and we already have our prices that we want to pay for our respective leap options all ready to go. And they're simply not, we're not going to pay the offer. We're just going to be patient and disciplined and just wait for these gaps to be filled in. And you might even argue, now that this market structure is confirmed, there's your primary trend line there. So we should, believe it or not, actually wait for some sort of pullback against the trend line to actually get ready to pull the trigger. So very much like crypto, I think we're trying to turn the corner. We have, Baba obviously is very different, probably back to our hello story. This is probably a little bit better. We do have location. They have knocked the stuffing out of a lot of these names. Now we just have to let the setup set up. I guess just to finish this off, I did put out a tweet with regard to Shiba Inu. You could trade dog money. You could trade Shiba. I think it's the same thing. I think there's other derivatives that trade off of things like a Solana network that are also in this space as well. I am interested in this SHIB. I always think SHIB's a fun little way to play, Alan. So you can clearly see how the setups are setting up here. This is about as clear as it gets. One low, two lows. Can I please have a W on the other side of this trend line? And they've already, fascinating how this often happens, kind of like what you see happening with Bitcoin as we speak. Notice the 25 level of the bot. This often happens where the market itself will set this trade up and then break out through the 25 and away we go. The bot's alive. You can see the same thing happening on a lot of these Schultz coins like SHIB. Same logic. So, if we get another low and then up we go, that'll create a W and that'll get me to front run the bot. I'll buy here. I will risk to that window and my profit objective is all the way up here. And it's a trader's life. It's just the way that it goes. Okay, I've got about a half an hour left. Chris said that there are some questions to be answered in our Q&A documents. So let's spend the next half hour doing that. And if I have any more time left over, we can always circle back and look if there are any questions on the YouTube chat. And the only other thing after that will be to ask all of you to wish Lily and I best of luck on the roads today. Did hear that now, actually, in Canada, I don't know whether you notice how bad the situation in this country is getting, but now there's actually, keep in mind, we have like literally millions of people here in this country that are not Canadian. They don't have the moral fiber of Canadians. Now we're actually getting cases of, you would have never heard this decades ago. There are actually cases of people being murdered on the road out of things like road rage. And I tweeted out absolutely horrific gang violence now in this country, thanks to this idiot Trudeau, who's completely destroyed our country. I've said it 100 times. I'll say it 100 more times. Canada is a short. Stay the fuck away from this place. And Chris is telling me he saw a story where if you want to leave now, it's going to cost you $25,000. What the fuck? God damn, this communist dictatorship. It's getting worse by the day. And the worst part about it is, as Canadians, we're so polite, so we don't say anything. We're going to turn around. We're going to be fucking sitting in some sort of communist dictatorship before we look around, and it's going to be too late to say anything. God, it's so sad. Anyway, so I especially need your best wishes on the road with dealing with pretty much a country of non-Canadians. I don't even know what nationality this country is now. Certainly not. They certainly don't have the sort of the. Remember, Canadians used to always be considered so polite and so nice and so courteous. Not anymore, folks. Anyway, let's look at your questions and see if I can help you here. So, number one, Greg, level one. Hello, Brian. How to recognize death cat? Well, maybe a dead cat bounce. I think that's what you were going for. I don't know whether. I mean, really, all I would say is, how do you describe this? If you have bearish market structure, and actually, Bitcoin, ironically enough, is very along these lines. If you have this bearish market structure that is actually confirmed, remember, how do we actually confirm trend? We confirm trend through market structure. So a new downtrend is nothing more than the visual representation of increasing supply. So every time the market moves up, more supply hits the market, and it meets whatever demand there is, and it quashes the demand, and it forces price back down. Then conversely, where there once was a lot of demand, the supply is so great that when it revisits that area, the supply, the amount of selling, right, it actually overwhelms the buyers, and you have price push lower, which creates this M-type price pattern. And really, you would argue that this line here is now your new established downtrend. So a dead cat bounce, quote unquote, is nothing more than when you see the market has fallen, and then all of a sudden it just turns around and it heads back up, but we're not even back to trendline resistance. This is what I would call that dead cat bounce. And why? If I understand correctly, a live cat won't bounce. If you've ever seen a live cat, whenever they fall out of a window or fall out of a tree or whatever, they're really, really good at absorbing the shock. They've technically got 4 shock absorbers. Same thing with squirrels. I remember there was a guy on the internet that did a whole video series on squirrels in his backyard and how they move and operate and stuff. It's quite fascinating, the physics of it all. But the point is that and the cats is same sort of logic. When they hit the ground, they have their position their body in a position in a way to be able to absorb all of that energy, and so as a result, they don't bounce. They land, right, and then they slink off, and off they go with the rest of their lives. And people go, "Wow, how the hell did that cat survive that?" Yeah, hence the term 9 lives. A dead cat bounce, unfortunately, what that means is if you look at, unfortunately, a corpse that falls out of a window, it will actually bounce off of the ground. And that's just nothing more than just pure physics, right? The energy being absorbed into the ground and then the energy being re-released the other direction. So what I would just simply say is if you have a scenario where it looks like it's a V bottom and all we're doing is we're just bouncing back into trendline resistance, that is what I would call a dead cat bounce. Conversely, right, an actual uptrend would be kind of like that BABA chart where the supply and demand dynamic has changed materially. Where when we head down, demand is so strong that anytime there's sellers that come into the marketplace, they get overwhelmed by purchasers. And this point right here, of course, confirms that change in trend. And really all this does is it just confirms that now we're in an uptrend. So you could have a pullback into support, and it's the same logic. And really, what should happen here is if this is an uptrend, and this I would actually say is what's happening in crypto right now, like our hello story. You can see where hello originally had its market structure bottom, right? Down, up, down, breakout. So it came slamming back down. I might even argue that this thing's even lost its uptrend. There's that one, but there's also this one off of here. So I might argue that, ironically enough, this in itself is a bit of that dead cat bounce kind of event. It's not much. I would even argue that this one probably, because that was the primary trend line. So that was a really good example of the dead cat bounce right back into trend line resistance. Market tagged that trend line and then just kept puking out the other side. So if anything, there's a really good example of your dead cat bounce. I don't know whether that helps answer your question. What signs should occur to know when cat bounce may happen? Well, first and foremost, especially sentiment-wise, like if you're specifically in crypto, just try and look for the entire space to turn like absolute end of the world bearish. So when we had CZ being sent to jail, you had Roger Ver being arrested for tax evasion. You had the entire risk market freaking out over the Fed potentially raising rates, or more importantly, not considering cutting rates. I still don't think they're going to cut rates. And I think that the market's a little bit almost the market, I think, actually right now is acting like a crack whore. So the crack whore, of course, when life is you're riding the high and life is good. Wow, everything is awesome. The blowjobs are the best. She screws like a racehorse, and it's a lot of fun. Unfortunately, the crack. What would you call it? The high it wears off, and you need another fix. And so now the market is kind of like, we either the economy grows itself. And frankly speaking, I don't agree with Mr. Powell's rosy outlook for the global economy. I think the global economy could be in a lot of trouble here. I wouldn't be surprised if over the next 6, 8 months, there's a little bit of a reprieve, especially if orange toupees happen to win. If orange toupees win this upcoming election, then I think things like this China trade will go absolutely crazy. In a weird sort of way, I might even argue that Mr. Trump, he is a master at playing the public. So if he thinks that if he can score brownie points by poking fun at China, he'll do it in a heartbeat. But that doesn't necessarily mean his policies behind closed doors are actually going to be anti-China. They might actually be pro-China. Impossible to say. But my hunch here is, over the next 6 months, I think we're going to be doing a lot of the backfilling, dead cat bouncing, cleaning this kind of stuff up and setting the stage for who's going to win this upcoming election down in the States. So you might even argue that this rally that we're seeing here on stocks right now, to a certain degree, it is also kind of dead cat bouncy. If we do actually start putting in bullish structure on other sides of trend lines, then we might start saying, maybe this isn't a dead cat bounce anymore. Maybe this market actually has some legs. And that was that whole sort of conversation that I had with you. Maybe Bitcoin, this I definitely think was a dead cat bounce. Absolutely. Everybody and their brother was bearish. And it was almost like everybody who was going to sold had sold. And we almost had a vacuum there where there just wasn't anybody participating. And in a vacuum, market's just going to go path of least resistance. If there's no more sellers, well, then it's going to go and find some sellers. So I definitely think we just went through dead cat bounce there on Bitcoin. And this will transition from dead cat bounce, boing, to, hey, you know what? Maybe this is a new bull market if we actually put in that bullish structure that I've been talking to you about. So, Greg, if you could let me know whether that helps you understand a little bit more the difference between a legit market structure based move and V bottoms and V tops, and how V bottoms and V tops are very typical, that dead cat bounce kind of scenario. If you have further questions, just type them in here while I'm out on the road with Lily, and I'll be more than happy to circle back around tomorrow in the daily brief after party and readdress this. So let me know if I answered your question. All right, number 2. Hello, Brian. Can you have a look at Adam, please? Up and at them. Up and at them. Up and at them. Up and at them. Who said that? Brian and his crazy sense of humor. I can look at it. Remember, nobody has a crystal ball. I can tell you what I see, but just because I see something, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen or it's going to play out. Super important you don't chase. If anything, if you get good at these chaos theory levels, you probably see that this painted a pretty good target. There, yeah, 2.618. And David's midpoint. I always see the damn market pivot off of that as well. And actually, this might be an interesting one, whether we should be using clotheslines. I don't know. Student of the market, we're always learning. There's also another M right here. Look at this little cute little one right there. That's a cool little M right there. 4669. Look at that. 2.618, that chaos there. Then 4669. Look at that chaos there. Looks like MACD tried to bottom out here. Sloppy W. Is that actually a higher low? Oh, yeah, it is. Look at that. So I think you can actually make the argument there is a confirmed bullish momentum divergence here. As well, too, you can see that there is a cute little W working right off of that level. I wouldn't fault anybody. This actually is not a bad trade. You're just going to buy that W, risk to a break of that low there, and pay yourself a bit on 2-to-1 objectives, which to me looks nothing more like, okay, well, we're going to have to go and retest this trend line. And the good part about this actually is it has a working uptrend line. It actually has a couple. So there's that one there, which is confirmed off of this W, and there's that one there, which is confirmed on this W. So you do actually have two supportive trend lines there. That's a good sign. Would I encourage you to be a buyer up here? Probably not. That's getting a bit expensive. What I would even say, if you wanted to sneak your way in on this, is drill down to that lower time frame chart, and then let's start drawing reload zones. Maybe that's too far down. Let's go. Yeah, it'll be the 4 hours. See what we got. All right. Yeah, it is interesting though. Some pretty big W's there. So this thing is projecting quite a bit higher. Wouldn't be surprised if this is like a foggy. Oh yeah, look at that. Oh, stuff gets so cliche after a while. It's ridiculous, eh? And of course, everything is always so easy to see in hindsight. So it looks to me like this thing wants 2.618. As I said, I kind of like buying that W there. That to me looks like the trade. Could you get a pullback here? Maybe we get a little bit of FUD when the futures open up. It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, if it just takes off here, well, there's not really much you can do. But I kind of like the idea of if you want to sort of sharpshoot this. Boom, boom. Reload zones back against these lows, against this trend line. All right, I would just simply say maybe throw like an alert on your system. Maybe be alerted if it goes if the $8 level is traded to over the next few days, and just get your spidey senses on, and then that way you could actually have a really slick trade. So this is food for thought. It's not a bad level down there. I don't know whether I feel comfortable chasing because I could very easily see this thing have to work its way back. So, well, all right. Definitely, you're not thinking in the wrong direction. Ironically enough, half of my job, and I always say this year after year after year, half of my job is just to stop you all from coming in and buying this or coming in and buying this. That's my job. And of course, I use colorful language and sometimes some politically correct references, or incorrect, I should say. But coming in and nibbling away down here, it's not a bad idea. You're not thinking in the wrong direction. The problem with a name like this is it sure looks to me like in the short term, there's the top end of your trading range, maybe even against these highs, right? All these levels that have played trade to. Interesting how we just had that there. And there's the bottom end of your trading range. Interesting. Yeah, that's the original breakout there. There. So as we stand right now, I might make the argument that all we're doing is playing ping pong in here. So if you are interested, you want to take a shot against these lows, okay. Notice, if anything, this almost looks like, not the best example, but almost looks like Adam. And then are we going to get a nice Eve in here? Maybe. I don't really like that location. I would prefer it to be somewhere down in that area there, especially against that original breakout level. So I like the idea, and this is just me, right? Your opinion doesn't mean anything in the end of the day. Just either work your stink bids down in this area, 78.6 off the higher time frames, Brian's favorite fib, or just put an alert down here. And when the market does come down in here, watch. And if you're really lucky, you get given a nice little treat. it runs up, pulls back, and puts in a nice, cute little W like that. That would be like, with sugar and cream on it, perfect setup. So that's my opinion there. I don't know if that's helpful. Great. If it's not, sorry. Let's throw that in the homework cloud. And I'll say my response. Something like that. Terrible speller. Nope, got it wrong. With an S, of course. I'm gonna say hunt RLZs for cheap entry risk gain. Recent W bottom lows, something like that. Okay, next question. Brian, I recently took this trade on Hedera. Worked out, but I'm not sure I executed it correctly. Well, if it worked out, can you please look at this and tell me if I made any mistakes? I used a 3-step setup, location at or below reload zone, divergence in RSI, and then I took the first clean W in price after the divergence was confirmed. Oh, that sounds like everything we're trying to teach you to do. 7 minutes to go. All right. Sell off low. Big. There's a good dead cat bounce. Pull back. Would have liked to have seen you drawn a reload zone of this range. My hunch is this probably was 61.8 in there. Cute little W. Got a cute little W within a cute little W. So you were able or willing to take that bigger risk. That's kind of like what we just showed you with that atom. So, do you want to take this bigger W or do you want to take the cute little W? Me personally, I would prefer to be in that cute little W, but if you did take this bigger W and risk against these lows, I wouldn't fault you. But anyway, that's sort of the similar kind of thing that you did here. You played a bigger W. This is also railroad tracks in there. So that's a good looking low. Really like that. Divergence. This here to this here. Okay. And it was below the reload zone. Oh, actually you missed. Look at this div here. This is much better. So there to there, there to there. There's your div. Actually, that's your trade right in there. Interesting how they took it down. So they actually painted a W here. And this is the danger of trading these shit coins. And like lower time frames, speculative investment ideas. This actually looks like a really cool little setup, and they just pulled a fuck you move right here against these lows. They had no intention of taking this thing down. They just ripped it, went after the stops, liquidity pools, all that kind of talk, and then straight back up. And that actually created a double divergence. So you can say this is your first divergence. This is a double divergence. And of course, we all know how much Brian loves his double Ds. You let the pop happen. Like I said, the only thing I think that was missing here was I think you should have drawn a reload zone off of this, which would maybe help you in the future. Just have more confidence that when we did come down into here, like my hunch is that is 61.8 down in there. And then you're kind of like, okay, any kind of W, anything at all, give me some reason to get long, any reason. And there comes your W's and away you go. I don't mind that. That's fine. Just understand here though, we could have very easily M'd out and kept working our way lower here. There wasn't any sort of guarantee. This is just a risk taker's life. You did see the bullish structure. You framed your risk based on that. And if we had gotten through these lows, then you probably would have been best just to get the hell out of there. I don't mind this. There's nothing wrong with that at all. So I'll say Looks perfectly fine. Way to go on hunting, executing on the setup. I don't know what we say. All right, and our last question. We got about 5 minutes here, and then I better get the hell out of here. Hi, Brian. Could you do a COT analysis on soybean oil futures? Kaboom! Apparently, we should be at some kind of long-term cycle low, but chart looks pretty ugly at the moment. Wow. So this is a topic we cover in our level 2 program, the commitments to traders reports. Probably a little bit beyond the pay grade for most of this audience. So, don't be upset that I say that, but just understand this is our level 2 concept. This would be people who are very familiar with the futures industry. We have to do a lot of teaching about how the futures industry works. Let's see. Do I have I think I remember putting it in here. Remember, I lost all my links in our COT overview. Let's open that up in a new window. Sure, I haven't done too much COT analysis recently. Maybe Chris, you can encourage me to do a COT video maybe one of these days. That might be good sort of extra content. We'll put on our weekly commodity trend survey. And you said soybeans? Soy oil? That's an esoteric product. I'll tell you that much, by crackers. All right, here's the beans. We should start. Oh, yeah, I think it's always a good idea to start with the higher time frame image. So what do we got here? We have actually, it looks like a bit of a conflicting market state here, right? So I can understand your question just looking at here. I wonder though, does this look like maybe the script has stopped working now? That doesn't look right. It's too bad. This was such a fucking awesome script. Might have to go through and figure out what these symbols are that they use. System info root. Does anybody know Pine script? I can't even remember who it was that wrote this script. Huh. Because I don't like the way this looks. This looks to me like this is not reporting anymore. Sucks. One thing I really dislike about these damn computers is seems like every 6-8 months everything changes and all the stuff that you used to use and rely on just disappears. It's almost like they get off on this. I hate this about this space. So I don't think I can actually comment on the commitments to traders reports there, which sucks. Sorry. I think in the library we have what time is it? You know what? This is too big of a question to answer for today. Tell you what, let's circle back around, Rich, and let's look at this in the after party tomorrow. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say we'll need some time to put together a solid answer for you. Let's look at this in the after party for Monday. And that's what, May 6th? And actually, isn't that interesting? God, next, within 1 week, we will be through the Beamish's birthday. God, I get so old now. I don't even like birthdays anymore. I try and forget about them. But if everybody could remember to wish Chris, I guess, happy birthday sometime through the end of next week. I don't even want to know what day it is. And Liz down in Sacramento. Two people that I now know who have the same birthday as me. Go figure. So when I come back from Lily, I'll take a good look at this, Rich. This is unfortunately, I don't have the resources. If anybody on the site happens to know what happened to this script, and do we even have an author of this script? Gosh, it's such a cool script. No, damn, don't. But if anybody is familiar with Pine scripting, can you just look at this and go, oh yeah, they changed the script. It's this now you have to do. It would help out a lot, but because clearly something's not right about here. And that means that if that's the case, then I'm going to have to go off to some other source and try and find the answer for you. Let's look at orange juice. Is it the same thing? Now we're not getting anything. How about sugar? Oh, yeah, dead. God, isn't that a shame? I loved using this information. Darn. Yeah. All right. Well, there's nothing I can do about it right now. But what I'll do when I get home from Lily is I'll go and pull down the other sources that we have on the site and see if I can piece something together for you. So. All right, everybody. I think I'm going to leave it at that. Wish us luck on the road today. Now we have to deal with roving gangs in Canada. Oh my God, this is crazy. And road rage and the like. So your best wishes are greatly appreciated. Slow and steady wins the race. PMA for the win. You know, if you are able, do yourself a favor and at the very least, try and get yourself educated before we go into this insanely nutso bull market, which I think is coming. Do yourself a favor, get your plan together, get your skirt together, get your capital together, get the accounts that you're going to trade on together, get your plan together, get your shopping list together, all right, because opportunities now here. And if you need help, I have yet to see anybody else on the net that, well, look at that. They don't have anything to offer me because I'm already an OG. That's funny. I can't show you the sales pitch, but I've yet to see an educational program that holds a candle to this program. It is absolutely by far the best program I've ever seen. I know I'm not slightly biased. Some of these OGs have taken our program, and I think they speak very highly of the program as well. In fact, I'd like them to try and espouse the program's principles a little bit more. But anyway, the point here is if we want to set you up for success, I think this education program is absolutely the best way to learn how to effectively build and run a small business of trading with the expectation of you actually making money at running your small business. So if you have the opportunity, come on over to the site and check out our offer. I think it's a pretty compelling deal. And you can even have a nice chat with Josh, our marketing guru, and talk a little bit about where you're going. And hint, 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 he might even be able to throw you a bone if you talk really, really nicely to him. So, all right. Have yourselves a great day. Hugs and kisses. Like I said, wish us luck on the road. We'll see everybody in videos tomorrow, daily briefs and after parties. And we'll take a look at the commitments of traders information that I can dig up for tomorrow as well. All right, everybody, all the best and bye for now.